In this video, I'm going to show you how to change a water shutoff valve. The water shutoff valves I'm replacing are for my kitchen sink and one of my toilets. On the water valve for my toilet, the handle is broken off and corroded. I would have to use a pair of pliers to shut the water off. In an emergency, that would make it difficult to do. So I'm going to replace this while I'm replacing the toilet. My kitchen valves are corroded and they leak when I turn the water off, so I'll be replacing these as well. If you have a valve that's not so old and corroded, you can try tightening this nut right here, and that may stop the leak. The valves I'm replacing are soldered in place. I'm going to replace them with compression fitting valves. This is the valve you're going to be looking for, a 1/2-inch compression inlet to a 3/8 compression outlet. If your pipes are coming out of the wall, you're going to be looking for an angled valve. If your existing valves are compression fitting already, you may be able to leave the compression fitting and nut on the pipe and just replace the valve. If you install a new valve and reuse the existing nut and compression fitting and it leaks at the compression fitting, then additional work will be needed. You'll have to cut the old compression fitting off. Doing so, you may not have enough copper pipe to install the new fitting, which means you would have to cut the wall open and add additional copper pipe in order to install the new valve. I just want you to be aware of this before you start. Luckily for me, there's just enough room for me to fit the tubing cutter between the valve and the wall, and just enough pipe for me to install the new valve. I start by shutting the water off at the main coming into the house. With an adjustable wrench, I disconnect the supply line from the valve. Because I am cutting the valve off and shortening the copper pipe, my supply lines may not be long enough to reach the new valve, so I'm checking this now. Now I use a tubing cutter to cut the old valve off. Again, I'm checking to make sure my supply line reaches the new valve. I have a little play in the pipe coming through the floor, so the supply line will not be an issue. If it didn't reach, I'd have to buy a new supply line. Even though I'm using compression valves and not soldering, I make sure the copper is clean so the new compression fittings seal properly. Also, if you don't clean them properly, the compression fitting will not fit over the copper pipe. First I slide the compression nut onto the pipe, then the brass compression fitting. Then I slide the valve on. Thread the nut to the valve. Next I tighten the nut to the valve using a pair of Channellocks and an adjustable wrench. Make sure you line the supply line connection in the proper direction before tightening the fitting. If you don't hold on to the valve with a wrench or a pair of pliers when tightening the nut, the valve will spin and you won't be able to tighten the nut properly. You want to make sure this is pretty tight so it doesn't leak. If it does leak when you turn the water back on, you can give it an additional turn with the wrench until the leak stops. With flexible supply lines, I will not need the compressor fitting or supply nut. Now that everything's tight, I'm ready to hook the supply line to the valve. You don't want to over-tighten flexible lines. There's a rubber O-ring in the flexible line, and over-tightening will actually cause the line to leak. Just hand tighten and put an extra turn with a wrench. Once I have the lines tight, I'll turn the water back on and make sure there are no leaks. Wait a few minutes after turning the water on and feel the fitting in the valve and make sure there are no leaks. I hope this video helped. Don't forget to subscribe and give a thumbs up. Click the bell icon to get notified whenever I post a new video. Also, visit me on Facebook. Until next time, thank you for watching.